Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we're back. It is absolutely sunny in here because the future is bright. The future is very bright. That's just what they're saying, and not even me, the sources. But just getting situated, got a new mic. We need a mic arm. We're working on that. But also, we need to fix this because I'm echoing into my own headphones and it's making me crazy already. But we're back. Not that we ever left. There we go. Much better. Okay. Not that we ever left, but just feels like things are a little bit different right now with GameStop and just some of the things going on in the market, right? Obviously, haven't been on here in a while. It's not that I'm like not interested in GameStop or anymore or anything. And, we had this period back here, which we'll talk about a little bit. And of course, I will be streaming for the upcoming earnings. But overall, I just think this story that is GameStop is amazing, and it's truly one of a kind. It's like there's so many people still like, I don't understand this. Now they're getting into Bitcoin and this and that, and it's just what a remarkable story, right? So earlier this year, we had it like just making a steady climb up to the 30s, then steady climb down. Earnings come out, look pretty good. Oh wait, we're actually going to raise capital through a convertible note issuance to expand the investment policy to buy Bitcoin. But then right here, everyone's like, well, they haven't bought the Bitcoin yet. What's going on? We start steadily climbing up, kind of floating in this little range here for a while, right? Through the first part of the month of May. And it's like, hey, did they buy Bitcoin? Did they not buy Bitcoin? What's going on here, right? And then all of a sudden, boom, past 2 days, a lot of price action. We completely blow past 30. We're at 33 today. Last I checked, max pain was 28.50. So with that being the case, a lot of call options, closing the money, which is great. But at the same time, you with GameStop, right? And I'm not here to go put rain on everyone's parade, I guess you could say. But you just never know with this company, right? And this stock. So I'm always like, okay, what's going on? Is it going to go down? Is it going to go up next week? I don't know. It feels like it's going up, right? But we still haven't even got a Bitcoin announcement yet, right? Which I'll share some thoughts on that as we get settled in here because I do have some opinions and different things I've been thinking about with it. While maybe I'm not posting as much, I'm always keeping an eye on what's going on, especially GameStop and Bitcoin. Those of you that know me know I'm long Bitcoin. It's had a nice breakout here over the past couple days, but you can see like they're both year-to-date charts, right? They're not exactly in correlation, like generally, yes, right? Since GameStop announced the Bitcoin strategy back here, right? Since then, roughly, Bitcoin's been going up. And now GameStop is as well, but it hasn't been just perfectly correlated with Bitcoin, but at the same time, it does seem to have, I guess, general correlation, or it's almost like the market is starting to price in that they're going to become a Bitcoin holding company, right? And I don't even want to say like Bitcoin treasury company because I don't see them taking the approach of just, hey, we're going to put all our dollars into Bitcoin. I think it's going to be an aspect of what they're doing. I think eventually they make an acquisition of some kind, really try and grow e-commerce, do different things like that. Hence why we saw like the PSA partnership. So they're not just strictly trying to become a Bitcoin company, and they have positive free cash flow. So I think, excess profits and capital raised through 0% convertible notes that are issued, which also another quick thought, are they going to issue debt next week, right? Or sorry, are they going to issue convertible notes, which is technically debt, but it's 0% debt, right? If they do the same thing they did last time. I don't think it's impossible, right? They've raised a lot of capital as of late, and they clearly just want to stack cash. And in my opinion, I think they are buying Bitcoin, and they actually already bought some Bitcoin. But I want to hit the chat real quick because I just realized some of you are here, and I appreciate that. I'm just trying to get settled back in. Got to get back on the horse, guys. Streaming's a lot of fun. I don't know why I stop. Every time I stop, I'm like, why did I get out of the flow doing it? Because when you get out of the flow, it's harder to get back into the flow. Josh, what's up? Hope you're doing well. Turner, hope you're doing well. Let's make sure we get the all chat here, too. I don't want to miss any chat. We welcome the bulls, the bears, the haters, the kangaroos, whatever you want to call them in this market, right? Tetron, KCR, hope you're doing well. Turner, Molly, Otto, and Salvador say hello also. Hello to you all. Thanks for being here. Viva la GameStop. Yes, sir. Michael Turner, long live the GameStop. Hey, Tetron, hostile takeover. What up, what up? Annie, had Tetron, so happy you're live again. Annie, thanks for being here. I appreciate you very much. We're so back. Yes, sir, Turner. Yes, sir. But yeah, so since we've last spoke, not a whole lot going on. We did have a few insider buys, which I do have on my page here at X. If you don't already follow me, feel free to drop a follow at Tetron Invest. And then behind me, guys, you're going to get a sneak peek that Whoa, not that one. You've seen behind me, got a lot of different stuff. Oh, over here, a lot of different stuff going on. Stay tuned, but I think I will be rebranding to Tetron Talks in the near future, because I do want to talk about some other things like outside of GameStop, whether it's like hockey or just general, things going on in the world. I'll be clear though, I have no interest in talking politics. I feel like there's enough people talking about that out there, and it's such a dividing topic, and just, I'm aware of things going on, but I don't want to be the one to talk about it, right? That's just not my approach. But I do want to come off, or not even come off, right? I'm just going to be myself. That's the best way to do a YouTube channel, right? But I feel like when you read Tetron Invest, it's like, oh yeah, he's saying invest in this, invest in that. And like, that's just not really like the approach I want to kind of have, but it's not 100%, but brainstorming back there, right? Even though I haven't heard from me in a while, maybe I'm here, I'm out here thinking about the channel, thinking about Tetron, because you know what? It's the internet, right? It's the internet. I'm just a guy on the internet, so don't listen to me. Don't take financial advice, but I'm going to share my thoughts and opinions, and I think it's great to bounce ideas off other people out there. And if you're wondering, well, one, where's your mic stand? Or two, I do have this, right? But then when I touch, it's very sensitive, right? So we got to get that figured out, but that's okay. We're working on that. So anyways, since we last spoke, we did have several insider buys, which I think is very bullish. And, the investment policy was amended to allow the company to buy Bitcoin. And we knew that, go to my mega sheet here, I guess you could call it, that they were planning to sell off their French and Canadian businesses, right? Like that was pretty known and mentioned, right? As of February 18th, 2025, we didn't know when sales were going to close. So the French business has not been sold off yet, if I remember correctly. Apologize if I'm off on that, but I haven't seen anything. Canadian operations though, however, they were signed off on, or sold off on rather. So they're going to relaunch as EB Games in Canada. This guy, Steven Tetrault, bought out the position, or I should say aspect of the business. And they're rebranding it, right? So we don't know the exact amount, but in the next earnings report that's coming out a little under a month from now, we don't know exactly. We should know within a week or two the exact date of the earnings report, which of course I will be live for earnings, always live for that. But we will know what they got for the Canadian business, because he did have to buy it out. So, that will be a boost to the profitability in the quarter, I would think. It's going to be like a one-time profit that they're going to see from this. I don't think anything too crazy. I'm not even sure really how to ballpark it, to be honest with you, off the top of my head here, but they will get some cash from the sale of the Canadian business, right? And now they're pretty much out of Canada. And to me, it just seems apparent that they're really only going to do business in the United States right now in terms of e-commerce, PSA, anything with the quote legacy business. But then I think with Bitcoin and some other things they might want to try and do, that's where they could have the international opportunity or brand reference, you could say, because I feel like the name is strong and that's what they really always have to keep. And I do theorize that one day, they'll make GameStop one part of it, and then it'll be like GME Holdings becomes like the official name, like when you look up the stock ticker, right? Something like that, and then GameStop something underneath it, they buy out something else. Bitcoin Treasury is another aspect of things, right? Just a bunch of different things, but GameStop taking us higher, just like Creed. So they sell off the Canadian business, they're getting more involved in PSA, and then the main thing everyone's been talking about with GameStop, or I would say, is kind of giving it, relevance again in the general financial world, right? Like there's a lot of people like myself who are closely following what's going on. However, when they said they were going to buy Bitcoin in terms of like updating their investment policy, a lot of people started paying attention and be like, okay, so when are they going to buy it? We haven't gotten an 8K filing yet. So when you look up the details, right, and you go to their like news releases, we haven't had anything since the convertible note offering, which by the way, they very quickly proposed it, and then were able to price it like a day later. So there was clearly a lot of demand, and anyone who's bought these bonds, they've appreciated in value since getting it. So you can actually look it up on here. I'll show you guys real quick. It's going to be loud, but GME, GameStop. Yeah, here it is. I can only find it on TradingView. I'm not sure where to find it elsewhere. But you can see they're trading at 132% of par value, so to speak. But, this is just something to kind of look at. I don't think there's really too much to think of it, but if you're just curious what's going on there, you can see, generally speaking, it's going to move with the stock price. So if the stock price goes up, the value of the bond's generally going to go up, right? Generally speaking. But circling back to the investment policy, right? Update to its investment policy to add Bitcoin as a treasury reserve asset. So they announced this on March 25th when they reported their last earnings. So, looking at this right now, they reported last earnings March 25th. You'd have to think probably in the second half of June, we're going to get the Q1 earnings report, which will be really interesting to see. Are they able to maintain profitability for this quarter? I really want to see 2025, every quarter be profitable at this point, right? So if you go over to the numbers over here, you can see Q1 historically, they haven't been able to turn a net profit, and it's been their toughest quarter. So last year, every quarter was profitable except Q1. So can this quarter one coming up be profitable? Maybe. I don't know for sure. I would hope so. But I think that would be really nice to see, and we might see it happen now that I'm thinking about it in real time from that one-time sale of the Canadian operations, right? So that could be a factor. But with the Bitcoin policy, right? Everyone's saying, well, they didn't buy Bitcoin yet. There's still no AK filing. Look at how Bitcoin's been doing, right? But if there's anything I know about Ryan Cohen and GameStop after, following this company so closely for several years now, is they really don't like to show their hand, right? They want to keep their cards close to their chest and reveal the least amount of information possible, right? Even this sale of the Canadian operations, right? This is from the business wires, but we didn't hear it from GameStop themselves, right? If you go to their latest news, there was nothing on that, right? So we know they were pursuing the sale of French and Canadian operations, but the actual sale of the Canadian operations was announced by this individual, and he also posted about it. So they really don't disclose things until either the earnings report or they absolutely have to, right? But you would think, oh, well, if they're going to buy Bitcoin, they would have to disclose it, right? So how the SEC defines it, right? And please feel free to look this up. Remember, I'm just a guy on the internet. You should not be blindly following what I'm saying, but I'm just here to talk about it, theorize on it, get your brain working. You can let me know what you think in the chat. But I think that they bought just enough, or they worked with their legal team. This is my theory, right? That they worked with their legal team. Okay, in what way can we go about buying Bitcoin that we don't have to actually file right away that we acquired it? Because the SEC defines it as a material event would require a filing that shows the purchase of Bitcoin. So what qualifies it as a material event? That is a very gray area from my understanding. There's no clear-cut answer on that. And because there's no clear-cut answer, that would lead me to believe, they're consulting their legal team and say, hey, okay, well, at what point would we have to disclose buying the Bitcoin? So then that kind of leaves the question of well, how much did they spend on Bitcoin? Because they have a whole lot of cash after this last capital raise, not to mention that they sold shares 3 different times in 2024. So they've raised a lot of capital. They're getting a lot of interest income. However, interest rates are going to get cut later this year, or so it seems, right? The macroeconomic environment is a little crazy right now. All this tariff stuff, pretty wild. But at the end of the day, to me, I am bullish on Bitcoin. I believe in Bitcoin, even before GameStop started getting involved in it. I've been stacking sats, accumulating, hodling for several years. I first started reading about it at 18 years old, 2018, and I really wish I just bought more at the time and held, but I try to buy and sell. But really, since actually I got involved with GameStop 2020, I've been buying Bitcoin this whole time and just consistently adding. Not enough, right? Not enough. I wish I had more right now, right? But I'm just hodling at this point, not FOMOing in, as we are near a new all-time high right now. But to me, in terms of the macro environment and all this stuff with tariffs, no matter who the president is, it doesn't matter who's in Congress, at the end of the day, the end of the year, the United States of America always prints more money. We're at a point where there's really no going back. It doesn't matter how effective Doge is. It doesn't matter what kind of taxes are raised, taxes are cut. The interest payments coming due are massively increasing. So a lot of the, which you saw some stuff probably about the 20-year bond auction, how it didn't go as well as planned. It wasn't horrible, right, as some of the headlines made it seem, but it wasn't good. I'm not saying it's good. So with that being the case, they are going to have to, kind of offer it at a higher rate, or it's just harder to get demand right now from foreign nations. So if the foreign nations aren't buying the U.S. treasuries like they were in the past because of their own issues or, trade conflicts and whatnot, then guess who's going to wind up buying them? Most likely the Federal Reserve. Where does the Federal Reserve get their money? Boop, 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 boop. Fire up the money printer, right? Fire up the money printer. The money printer always gets fired up in times of crisis or where we need money. And we need money to cover our debt, right? There's about 1/4 of all United States debt outstanding, which is like 33 trillion last I checked. About 1/4 of that, maybe even a little bit more, but closer to 1/3, is due this year, right? That's going to have to be refinanced. So there might have been 10, 20, 30-year bonds at 1, 2, 3% rates that are now going for like 4, 5, 6% rates, right? In terms of the interest that will have to be paid out, which might not seem like a lot, right? But when you're talking at the magnitude of trillions of dollars, that is a massive difference. And it just is like a snowball that just keeps getting bigger and bigger and faster and faster. And when you look at how much like Social Security costs, that's pretty much the only thing, last I checked, that costs more than the interest payments right now. So there's a lot going on in the macro world, but to me, like, my bullish thesis on Bitcoin has always boiled down to the fact that the United States of America always prints money. And it's gotten to the point where the United States, in my opinion, kind of has abused their power of being the global world reserve currency. Like, well, you know what? When it doesn't matter if we're in a huge deficit all the time, we could just print more money. Other countries are going to buy our debt. But it just seems like that's kind of shifting right now. And that's really what, like, I guess OG Bitcoiners have always kind of like mentioned. But to me, like, I understand, some people are like, oh, there's macroeconomic crises and this and that, but I want GameStop to buy Bitcoin. I'm not going to lie to you. I would be a little bit disappointed if they showed no Bitcoin acquired yet in this upcoming earnings report, which I don't think is impossible, right? I'm mentally preparing myself for it. It's not the end of the world. I'm not going to go immediately sell GameStop because of that. Although I think the stock price probably would fall a little bit, right? Even if it is a good earnings report. That's what I'm kind of theorizing. So at the end of the day, if you know that there's more US dollars always going to be printed, like, that's why people say, like, just buy and hold Bitcoin, or Michael Saylor's always like, there is no second best, or the idea of like, oh, well, it's at an all-time high right now. Bitcoin's so high, but like, yeah, but when you know just more money is always going to be created, then at the end of the day, like, I think it's a great long-term holding, right? And it's the same thing with gold. And I think also, like, more and more people are waking up to the fact that Bitcoin is kind of a hedge against macro uncertainty, right? To an extent, because we have seen certain periods where, the macro doesn't look very good. There's some kind of negative news, right? Like Liberation Day or Liberty Day, whatever Trump was calling it, when he created all those tariffs and the market got absolutely crushed in that period, right? Which is crazy. We've already bounced back. But Bitcoin got crushed during that too. But then, since then, right, you've kind of seen that Bitcoin has really held up well. This is the first time where there's like a lot of uncertainty where it's like ripping much higher. And I think it's kind of just changing tide of the market. It's partly like the Bitcoin treasury companies that are starting to pop up, MicroStrategy, and just also more institutional adoption. I just saw JP Morgan will allow their clients to have Bitcoin. They won't personally custody it. They'll probably use Coinbase, which, side note, that is one thing that's always in the back of my mind about Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency industry, that Coinbase is kind of like bottlenecking the buying pressure, in a sense that, like, almost every institution that's acquiring Bitcoin or any Bitcoin ETF is custodied by Coinbase. Like, we need more players in the game. We need more people using Gemini or Kraken. Like, it's not good for Coinbase to have so much control in terms of Bitcoin. So that is like one slight thing that concerns me when I think about it, just in the grand scheme of things. But overall, just my personal thesis on Bitcoin, I believe in it more than just this simply, but to me it all boils down to the fact the United States of America always prints money. It doesn't matter who the president is, who's in Congress, how effective Doge is or isn't, they're always going to have to print more money as time rolls on. So with that being the case, and nobody can go out there and create more Bitcoin, it just kind of becomes a difference of supply over a longer period of time. And, it's going to be a bumpy ride. It's never just going to be smooth up and up, right? That's just not how the world of finance works. But generally speaking, I think that's the case. And I don't think GameStop should go put all their cash into Bitcoin. But I think when you understand that, it's like, why would you wait? And I would also imagine, Ryan Cohen met with Saylor, right? And I'm going to hit the chat because I feel like out of the corner of my eye through my sunglasses, because the future is so bright. That's why I got him on here. That I want to see what you guys are saying. But where's that picture? Yeah, Michael Saylor. When was this? I wish I put the date on here. But you don't think he was explaining to him, hey, this is why I'm in Bitcoin. This is the macroeconomic situation. You don't think maybe Ryan was like, hey, well, it is moved up a lot. Why would I buy it now? And then you just explain some of the things I was touching on. And again, it's not that simple. I'm just a guy on the internet. So don't just go run and buy Bitcoin or GameStop because I'm telling you this, because it's much more complicated than that, right? But sometimes you do have to like zoom out and kind of have that general overview. And yeah, that's kind of where my head's at right now. And I'm really curious to see the next earnings report. I really feel like they bought Bitcoin. I don't know. I just feel like it just wouldn't make sense to raise that 1.3 billion after already having so much cash to just not buy any at this point, right? And I just feel like it's so a GameStop / Ryan Cohen type of move to not disclose unless you absolutely have to. So I feel like they found, I don't want to say like a legal loophole, but just a way to express, in the event of some baloney lawsuit that comes out, right? Of like, hey, we did this, we updated the investment policy, right? I've seen some people argue like updating the investment policy discloses that they're going to buy Bitcoin, right? And in a sense, that's the material notice, right? That's kind of a potential argument out there. But we'll see, right? At the end of the day, nobody knows anything until there's an earnings report out, and then we will see what the balance sheet looks like at that time. And my original thought is, and I'm still kind of sticking by it, that 1.3 billion that they raised in capital, that 1.3 billion will be used for Bitcoin and, excess cash flows from operations, which, they're getting there in terms of the operations, and most of their net income right now is a result of interest income. But taking in that interest income they collect and the capital they raised through convertible note offerings, which who's to say we don't get one next week, right? I don't think it's impossible. Look how fast the other one had to close because of the high demand. So, and we've seen them clearly say like, hey, we don't mind issuing a lot of shares if we keep raising capital and raising the floor and building our balance sheet. And I promised I'm about to hit the chat. But one other thing, I was just looking today, right? And I got to get a mic arm. I got to get this figured out, but because it's a little annoying holding this, but that's all right. I feel like on a radio TV show, but check this out, right? Great day, $33 a share, great past 2 days. But look at this, current ratio, current assets to current liabilities, 8.05. That's an insane number. And look at this balance sheet, right? 1068 cash per share, but that doesn't even count the 1.3 billion they raised. And then you got to get into the argument of like, oh, well, is it like dilutive shares? Because you got to consider the convertible notes. Those are technically shares. So you'll also notice there will be a difference in the next earnings report between like EPS and diluted EPS, because diluted EPS will essentially account for the fact that the shares could be converted. And then what would the EPS be, including those, debt that is converted to new shares. So that's just kind of something to keep in mind. But even this debt right here, right? This isn't even debt. This is really store leases for the time being. And we know they continue to close on profitable locations. So these are really only for locations that are profitable at this point, and they have a ton of cash. They're earning a ton of interest. And a current ratio of 8. I don't know any other company with a current ratio of 8. That's absolutely amazing. Strong insider ownership. And I saw Larry Chang posted about the institutional ownership today, which is interesting. Why are you saying that? Is it because you're about to raise more capital? Is it because there's a lot of institutions buying in and you're implying that? So I don't know what the dealio is with that one, Mr. Chang, but we'll have to see. But he did buy more shares, right? He did buy more shares, as I have highlighted here. He bought another 5,000. Alan Adel bought 10,000. Ryan Cohen bought 500,000. Of course, the big one's always Ryan Cohen because he's the top dog. And I did mess it up here. He is the lead independent director. But that guy, Bitcoin Therapist, I don't know if you've seen him, he reposted us too. So shout out to him. Got me some new people seeing this channel, or post rather, this image I made. but I had messed that up. I meant to change that, right? Because I was making this in Canva and trying to adjust it. And also look at how much Larry Chang has bought, right? Let's go. Businessman doing business. You know what's crazy? I still haven't opened these. I literally have them right here. I've been waiting for like a good day. I don't know why I'm weird like that, but I'm just like, the day I feel like opening them, then a good card's going to come out. Just, good voodoo. But where is Larry Chang's purchase history? I did a whole thing on it here. So Alan Addles bought a bunch of shares. There we go. So he bought 5,000 in April 25. Last year, he bought 2 different times. The year before that, he bought 3 different times. And then March 2022, he bought some. But then he got some awarded for his role on the board of directors. And then also, he had 12,000, which is 3,000 pre-split, prior to joining the board. Because when he joined the board, that was the point in which he was required to disclose his current holdings with a Form 3. So, all interesting developments, right? And just the GameStop story is still being written in real time. But let's see what you guys have to say. And I appreciate you guys being here very, very much. GameStop and Finger. Let's go, Michael. What up, what up? Supersonic. Snick is back. There's some foil. Okay. D-John, listen. Nothing wrong with a little bit of tinfoil, but I'll be honest. I really just at this point, like, there's nothing wrong with it, right? And it's fine. Everybody can always theorize. That's always okay, right? I'm not trying to say that people can't do that. But I'm just at this point, like, I just want to see and hear what the company does. Not saying, like, I don't mind that they're being quiet, but I'm just saying, like, I don't even like to theorize about dates or any of that stuff just because I'm like, there's been so many dates that have come and gone. So many, well, when this happens, then that happens, right? And at the end of the day, it's all just come and gone. So for me, I'm just like, okay, when is the earnings report? Great. Take a half day of work, and we're going to stream and cover it live. New sunglasses, Fireman. Got any others? Yes, sir. I'm John Lacey. Thank you for being here. You already know I got the 3-pack of these, the blue, the black, got the rocking them all summers. Carter's Corner Pocket. Hope you're doing well. Glad I catch the live. Carter's, thanks for popping in, man. Hope you're doing well. Guys, shout out to Carter's Corner Pocket. I think he's got a channel of his own, if I'm not mistaken. So be sure to check that out. But listen, we're back in business. We're so back. Not that we ever left, but consistency is key. We got to keep grinding. We got to keep streaming. The future's bright. That's why we got the sunglasses on. Although it's making it hard to see here. Hi, because I can. What up, what up? Because you can. That's why you're here. Glasses. Did you buy them at GameStop? No, I'm John Lacey. I did not buy them at GameStop, but Ryan Cohen would be the one to buy the Bitcoin dip. Carter's, yeah, that's what I would think too, right? Like, he had an opportunity back here. He could have been buying at a much lower price point than we are right now. So if you had bought in here, anyone who bought in here is happy, right? Even you buy in this range, it's still a pretty good price. Even here, right, in the 90s, which, again, I just feel like they would have a long-term approach in adopting, like, Bitcoin as part of, like, their investment policy. So with that being the case, like, who cares if it's at 80, 90, 100, or 70? If you're buying Bitcoin, at least I can speak from my own personal experience. I'm not buying Bitcoin to sell it next year. I'm buying it to hold for the next decade ahead, and in understanding that the United States dollar is always printed, which means all the other countries around the world have printed their currency, which means there's a lot of currency out there, right? And like me and my brother always joke around and say, like, money is not even real. When we're like, oh, let's order this. Oh, it costs this. We're like, you know what? Good thing money's not even real. But we're joking, obviously, right? Like, money is real. But when you think about it, at the end of the day, it is literally just paper, and it's just a means of exchange. And when you zoom out, like, that's the whole thing with Bitcoin too. You have to realize, like, it's still relatively new. And when you realize what money is in, like, the grand scheme of, like, human history, we've been on this planet for thousands and thousands of years. Has there always been the United States dollar? That's only existed for 200 years, which, yes, that's a very long time. But when you zoom out, it's like there were always, like, means of exchange, like a medium of exchange in all of history, right? It just varied. At certain places, it was like certain rocks. It was gold coins, different things like that. But it's like, how do you exchange gold? And ultimately, it was just determined, like, hey, we need currency to make this easier, right? Or what people just all see as, like, the common currency. And that's basically how the dollar came to be, right? And it obviously there's the pound, the yen. Why is it what the Chinese dollar is slipping my mind right now? But I think you guys understand what I'm saying here. That a general concept that is money, but like at the end of the day, and people say, well, what gives Bitcoin value? What gives the dollar value? What gives the dollar value is that everybody uses it and just accepts that, hey, this is money. If everybody's memory was wiped tomorrow, we would all look in our wallets and go, what is this green stuff, right? If nobody had any recollection of their whole life tomorrow out of nowhere, all of a sudden, right, it could be like, these cups are, I'll give you 3 of these cups for a car, 4 of these cups, right? Like, it's just like what money is it's like truly remarkable when you zoom out. To me, like, it's so fascinating that it's just like in our day-to-day lives, like we just accept like what the dollar is, but really what the dollar is it's just paper at the end of the day, right? It's just paper, especially when it can be created. And obviously it's more complex than that. I'm like way oversimplifying it here, but it's just the idea that it's like, oh, well, you know, Bitcoin's at the top right now, or it's volatile in these cycles. But my thought is, as time goes on and it becomes more widely held and just worldwide, like accepted to the average person, not even accepted, but just understood by the average person and held by the average person, I think it becomes less volatile, right? And yes, it will always be a little volatile, but eventually, you know, a couple decades down the line, in like the 2040s, it starts trading more like gold. When it has a big move, it's like a big move is 3%. Whereas right now, a 3% move for Bitcoin is so minimal, right? But completely rambling here. Thanks for being here. CCP, yeah, the pick. Thank you. What's up? What's up? Real question. When does the options chain update open interest? Dijon, I think it's like first thing in the morning, the next trading day, if I'm not mistaken, like right when the pre-market opens. I believe that's when we'll see it. So it is a 3-day weekend. Happy Memorial Day weekend. You know, very happy to have off on Monday. We love that. Everybody liked that. But that means we won't really get anything till Tuesday. And also that just means an extra day of anticipation of what is GameStop going to do next week. Is it going to fly up to the 40s? Is it going to come back down? Are they going to issue more convertible notes? Which I don't even think that's that impossible. And if they are, it's like, are they buying Bitcoin? What are they doing with it, right? So many questions to be answered, man. So many questions to be answered. But I love covering this story because it's like nobody truly knows what's going on. There's all these people out there, you know, on Twitter and YouTube, and I'm not talking about anybody specific before you go hearing that and go, oh, he's saying this about that guy. No, it's none of that. Everybody thinks they know what's going to happen, but nobody does until it happens, right? And that's just the markets in general and finance in general, and why, you know, you always have to take things with a grain of salt, or not even a grain of salt, but just take it at face value, but then look into it further and just get more details and more understanding, and understand, like, just like your perception might not be accurate at that time, and as you like understand things, like the more you read into it, your perception changes, right? And it's also like, we are human, like we are, I hope none of you are bots on here, right? Maybe there's some AI bots watching. We love you too. Just remember, I'm one of the good ones, right? I always say please and thank you to ChatGPT to make sure he knows, or she knows, it knows that I'm one of the good ones, right? But having said all that, it all just boils down to like what comes out with the company, right? Like what do they actually say in the earnings report? And that's all you can really analyze. But even then, right, it's like we're human, we have emotions. And when Bitcoin was down here, like when Bitcoin was up here, right, it was floating in this range, like I gotta buy more, I want to buy more, right? Like I love Bitcoin, I'm long on Bitcoin, I should have bought more back here. And then it goes through this dip, right? We go through all that uncertainty in April, and then it's like you look at Bitcoin at like 80,000, 75,000, you're like, nah, I'm not buying that. Are you crazy? Why would I buy that right now, right? And then it comes back up here and you're like, oh, I need more. Like it's going to go to 150. It's going to go to 200. I should have bought more. I better just buy more now. And then it'll dip again, right? It'll go back to like 95,000, 90,000. And people say, myself included, it's like funny. I literally know this, but I still have the thought every time, like, I could go down more. I better not buy and buy too heavy. And then it comes back and I'm like, I should have bought heavier. What was I waiting for, right? But also on that note, like always know thyself, manage your own risk. And that's really what's made holding GameStop and Bitcoin easy for me over the past several years, is because I know what I have, you know, and trying to always read about and understand that my perception will change over time. And you just have to keep up in terms of like new information coming out and analyzing it and just becoming more and more aware, right, of the data. And in doing that, you have to also look at your own financial situation and see like, okay, how much could I put in where I'm not going to lose sleep at night? And if you are going to lose sleep at night, it's like, why are you doing that? Why are you being that aggressive, right? So for me, you could take away all my Bitcoin and all my GameStop shares tomorrow. And while I would be not a happy camper, very disappointed and annoyed, but I would live on, right? I wouldn't be in debt. The only debt I have is a very small student loan I have left over. And the only reason I haven't paid it off is because it's a 2% interest rate loan. I'm literally earning 4% in a high yield savings account. So why would I go immediately pay that off? It's essentially good debt in my eyes, right? I could pay it off tomorrow if I wanted with what I have in my savings for emergency costs. But why would I do that when it's such a low interest rate and I'm literally earning a higher rate of return on just keeping it in cash for the time being, right? So you got to know your own financial situation, and it's really good to look at yourself, right? You look at GameStop as a company that's carefully managing their capital. And remember that letter Ryan Cohen wrote a while back where he was saying, like, I expect everyone to manage capital as if it's their own, or company capital as if it's their own, something to that extent. So basically, you have to look, in my opinion, you have to look at yourself as a business, right? You don't have to be, having like closing stores or opening stores or anything like that, but you have to understand like what you're earning in high interest on a high yield savings or a money market account, how much you're investing, at what consistency you're doing it, right? Like I really like dollar cost averaging because you just don't even think about it that much. And the market goes up, great, I'm buying. Market goes down, great, I'm buying. So you just dollar cost average into positions you're doing, right? Like a position I've been building for the past several months is AMD. And I'm trying not to rush into it too much because I really do think they have a lot of upside for the next few years in terms of just artificial intelligence. With artificial intelligence, I won't go into that too much right now, but really I'm very bullish on it because not just like AI, like, oh, these language models and whatnot, but it's like these companies, these large companies are investing so much into like they're going to buy so many like AMD chips and utilize their data center cloud to essentially grow their profit margins, right? Like look at Microsoft, for example, their last earnings report, they grew cloud revenue by like 32%. And they said about 30% of all new code being written is automated. And in growing their cloud revenue 32%, they spent no more than the year prior on selling and general administrative and marketing costs. So they didn't spend really much more to acquire that additional profits, so to speak. So I think companies are really just seeing the vision of like automation and artificial intelligence is really going to boost profit margins. Like profit margins are stronger than ever before generally, right? Because of technology, but I think it's even going to get to another level coming up, right? And I think AMD is going to be essentially like AMD and NVIDIA are the ones selling like the picks and shovels to like the gold rush, so to speak, right? But I digress. That's like a side note. But my point being, I've been dollar cost averaging today, and I'm not rushing into it because I'm learning more and more about it. I am very bullish on them, but I'm also not going to just, YOLO into them, rush into them, and then it goes down. I'm stressing, it goes up. Oh my gosh, should I take profits already? No, I'm building it as a long-term position. I know myself. I know that's my approach, and that's really what's most important, right? With GameStop or anything else, you got to know yourself and what approach works best for you. And also, side note, it's already seeing all this price action as of late. Like, so the investment policy update was here, right? When the earnings report came out, then they issued the convertible notes. We got a big drop. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, dilution, right? Okay, sure. But they raised a lot of capital, and it's technically not dilution until they do actually convert. And if they do convert, that's because the share price has appreciated. And since then, we've been climbing. And I think if they do announce they actually bought like $1 billion in Bitcoin, I do think it'll go a lot higher because I feel like the market is like confused, right? It's like, is this a Bitcoin treasury company? Is it not a Bitcoin treasury company? Did they buy Bitcoin? Did they not? Right? So it's like kind of moving with it, but it hasn't been like as aggressively moving with it as like MicroStrategy's moved, for example. But then all of a sudden, like what changed these past couple of days? Maybe an institution got wind of like, hey, yeah, they did buy Bitcoin, right? Some way or another, because people talk in the industry. So maybe someone got wind of it and is like, we want shares. Let's start buying up a bunch of shares before it does actually come out in their next earnings report, right? And I'm just theorizing here, right? And also keep in mind, it says the earnings report is going to be, okay, where is it? What day? It says It should be June 4th. Yeah, that's definitely not going to be the case. And they're estimating 750 million revenue, 8 cents of EPS. I'll kind of make my own estimates as we get a little bit closer. I got to think about it a little bit more. Look at the past couple earnings report, theorize on that. But the earnings is not going to be that soon. And if they do come out and say, like, we bought Bitcoin, or like, here's how much Bitcoin we have on the balance sheet, and hey, we actually bought it at like between 75 and 90,000. We were buying this $1 billion worth that's now worth 1.2 billion, right? I think the market will really, really like that, because it's almost like the market is looking for validation that GameStop is actually buying Bitcoin. That's how I kind of view it. But I don't know. I don't know, right? At the end of the day, I'm just a guy on the internet. I'm just like the rest of you, just trying to figure it out all in real time. And I know this is like, to people on the outside looking at it, like, how could you just say this? I'm like, I just trust the management team to make the right moves and take them in the right direction, because they have the vested interest. And also, you know, everyone's like, oh, well, they haven't done anything this whole time. Okay, but this is what Ryan Cohen's been working on this whole time, right? He was chairman of the board, and he's like, all right, you know what? Fine, I'll do it myself. I'm going to be CEO also. So it's also like, I don't want to say an ego thing for him, but you don't think Ryan Cohen wants to prove it to the world? All the shit he's heard over the past 4 years about GameStop and whatnot, like, oh, maybe he doesn't care, right? You know, because he's very comfortably wealthy outside of GameStop. But I just feel like if I were him, I would want to be like, oh yeah, you think GameStop's done? You think this is all just a clown show, a joke? Watch me. Watch what we're about to do right here. That's how I kind of see it, but we'll have to see how it plays out. So I myself praise our AI overlords. Dijon, this is what you have to do, man. Exactly. It's about respect. You know, listen, robots, if you're listening, we love you. Tetron loves you. People watching Tetron love you. You don't have to take us out when it comes over, right? And side note, I actually try to program my own, like, Jarvis, like, you know, the guy from Iron Man, not the guy, but it's like, Jarvis, what's the weather today? Like, I was trying to program that on my own. I don't know anything about coding, but I was just using AI to do it. I was like, fix this, add this, all for fun, right? But didn't really get anywhere with it. But little side project. Is Roaring Kitty still supporting GME? It's a good question, right? I think so. I think in his last stream, he was indicating like, okay, let's get these sunglasses off actually. Whoa, we don't want it to break. Once you guys see my eyes. But in his last stream, I think he was indicating like, okay, we've waited a few years. It's fine. It hasn't been too long, but it was also kind of like, okay, we need to see something over the next few years. And I would agree. If we get to the end of 2026 and they don't have any Bitcoin on the balance sheet, they haven't made any acquisitions, right? So that's like a year and a half from now. Any acquisitions, any expansion in e-commerce, anything different, then it's kind of like, okay, why are we just sitting on our hands here, right? But by then, right, I see them potentially acquiring something, if not taking the business in another direction of expansion, whether that's getting more involved with PSA or collectibles in some shape or form, maybe just opening up really small locations that are specifically for collectibles, and it's like collectible stop or card stop, something like that. Things that are just like developing, right? And I feel like they just focus on doing like a lot of the little things right instead of like that big major move. But to me, the big major move isn't really like an operational thing. It's like the Bitcoin treasury strategy, but also not being like a micro strategy where they're just going to raise capital, and buy Bitcoin, and live and die by Bitcoin. I think it's going to be a part of what they're doing, but they're going to make it a part of something bigger as a whole. That's just kind of how I see it. Bernstein analysts reaffirmed their market perform rating and $30 price target for Pfizer May 20th, following the company's recently disclosed $6 billion licensing deal with 3S Bioin. Okay, interesting, Michael. Thanks for sharing. But for me, Pfizer's not my kind of stock. A friend asked me the other day, like, what do you think of American Airlines? And I was like, it's just not my cup of tea, honestly. Like, I'm looking for growth stocks. My approach is to buy growth stocks. And that's what I want to do. I'm a young individual. I have a high risk tolerance, hence why I can also acquire a bunch of Bitcoin and not lose sleep over it. And for me, my like safer stuff, right, is my high yield savings, which keeping on the side for upcoming life expenses over the next couple of years. I don't want to be in a situation where if the market crashes or struggles, I have to go cash things out because I need to spend for on life events. So I'm building a nice strong base, you could say, with savings. And then also I would say like I kind of anchor my portfolio or my investing approach by buying the S&P 500. I feel like it keeps you balanced out. So when the market's crashing, right, growth stocks are going to come down a lot more, but the S&P is not going to come down as much. But then when the market's booming and going up a lot, growth stocks are going to go up a lot more than the S&P, but then the S&P's only going to go up a little. So it's going to kind of anchor things, right? Instead of, so your portfolio doesn't have 50-60% moves each year. The S&P kind of keeps it anchored. And I do all my S&P investing through my 401k and my IRAs. I just keep adding. And I've been on my job for a while now, so also they match a decent amount, so I'm just accumulating. And that's the way to go. I really think that's the way to go. It's just like owning assets is more important now than ever, and I try and tell this to people my age, as a younger individual, and just a lot of people just don't get it. They're like, oh, I'm scared to invest. It's risky. I'm like, I would argue it's riskier not to invest in this day and age when you know there'll always be inflation, right? The cost of goods is just going to keep going up. Do you really see it? Like, yeah, sure. It's like, and it always makes me laugh too, and not laugh, but like when inflation, it's like inflation's down from 6% last year to now be 2% this year. Okay, yeah, but it still went up 6% and then 2% from there, right? And I'm just using random numbers. That's not exactly what it was. But it's the point that, like, it's still always going up. Even if it's just a lesser percentage, it's still going up. So with that, like, and talking about like before, money's not even real, right? Money's not even real. But assets are real, right? And that's why I feel like you really need to accumulate assets now more than ever it's not even like grow your wealth. It's also to like maintain your wealth, because I always give the example, like if you're going to buy a new refrigerator this year and it costs $1,000, you're like, nah, I'm going to do it next year. You save that $1,000 in a savings account, you earn 4%. Great. Now you have $10,040. Next year you go to buy that refrigerator, it's $1,140. So yeah, you earn $40 of interest, but the refrigerator went up by $140 in price, right? And that's just using random numbers, but it's just the general concept of like what is happening. And I try and explain that to younger people, because I feel like, yes, there are a lot of young people who invest now rather than in the past, but there's also still a lot of people that are just like, yeah, I'm just going to like save my way to buying a house. And I'm like, that's just, unless you're making really good money, it's just not doable in this day and age. And for me, like, I want to own a home, everyone's different, but ultimately I want to own a home, and, it's an asset, right? That part of things. I used to think I would want to buy real estate and sell it, flip, rent it out, but no, too much for me. Maybe, I'll have a vacation house and then rent it out. I'm not there, something like that, but I really see myself sticking to the game of stocks. But that's just me. Any insight on why Google killed their quantum chip Willow? Dijon, I'm not sure. I actually didn't hear that somehow until now, so I appreciate you telling me that. I know all these companies are investing a lot into this AI stuff and just efficiency, right? It really seems to be all about, like, you could even take out the word AI and just really about boosting efficiency and automation. That's what I say, like AI, because AI is just such a buzzword now. But to me, it's really about efficiency, innovation, and just acceleration, right? Like all of those things kind of coming together in machine learning. GME should dip next week, and I should took profits today. Listen, Michael Anthony, if you're trading, I think that's totally fine, because that's also the thing too. Everybody's got to know what's best for them. So it's really just comes down to that. And at this point, I understand, it used to be like, oh, just buy and hold. And it's like, at this point, I think, like, everyone knows where they're at. Everyone can do whatever they want. And for me, I just buy and hold shares. But something I've started to do over the past year, since right around here, is really not aggressively, but start selling options. And that's because I built myself up like a nice savings account. And I was like, okay, how can I kind of have a second stream of income, right? And it's gone well. And for the first time, I've been tracking it on this Excel file over here. I'll show you in a few minutes how I've gone about this, right? Or what I've done with selling options. And to be perfectly transparent, this is completely separate from what I do with my long-term investing. So I hold my shares in a separate account, completely separate from when I'm selling options. So I've mostly sold options on GameStop, and that's where I've had the most success. I tried selling them a while back. I got burned, which again, I'll show you here because it's all about learning, right? But it's been great doing it about GameStop because I follow it so closely. I'm the most in touch with this company than any other company I'm invested in. So that's allowed me to have a good, like, finger on its pulse, so to speak, of like how it's trading and how I'm going about things, right? Sorry, many questions. First time here. You sound interesting. You're good, Dijon. No worries at all. No worries. I appreciate you dropping the questions. I still have my GameStop wallet. Nice. Yeah, me too. I have it written down. I haven't looked at it in a while. But yeah, you guys are always welcome to throw questions in the chat. I appreciate you being here. And I'm really just trying to get back into the flow of streaming. And I don't know. I think I'm just thinking about it too much. Even also like my Twitter approach and just streaming approach in the past. I feel like I've been like, I got to be so perfect, so accurate. But I'm just going to keep it casual. I'm not going to be purposely inaccurate, but really just discuss things that I find interesting and following. And because if you click on the stream, you're probably interested in the same thing. And then you're going to put something in the chat that's going to make me think. And then I'm going to say something that's going to make you think. And it's just kind of like bouncing ideas back and forth. But back to the selling of options, right? So I don't buy options anymore. I've told the story in the past, so I won't go into it all right now. I always repeat it, and I'm sure I'll tell it during the earnings reports. If you haven't heard it yet, pull up to the stream for when GameStop reports earnings. I always tell the story. But back here, I bought an option right before this huge explosion, and I got really, really lucky, unbelievably lucky, like life-changing money lucky. I mean, to me, it was life-changing because I was a college student at the time. But I bought a far out of the money call option for the week, $200 that I was able to cash out for $16,000 up here. It was insane. It was actually insane. I literally paid off a student loan, and I started playing options all the way up till here. And I played options all before that, and I got burned a bunch of times. But then right around here, summer 2021, I was like, I'm done with options. I'm just buying shares of companies. I'm done playing options. It's too successful. It's so rare for me to buy a call or a put, which I can't even remember if I bought like a couple calls this whole range, not on GameStop, other things, right, that I've kind of seen like a momentum play, right, very casually and very minimally, because I'm more of an investor than a trader, and it's all about like knowing how you want to go about things. And I would say more recently, right, like in here, I've kind of become a trader, but again, I have my long-term GameStop shares that I don't touch. That's completely separate from the new thing I started doing. And what I started doing was selling options, and for the most part on GameStop. So I'll show you what I've done here. It's a little bit of a messy sheet, but I did my first ever one in 2023, but you could see I really started doing it frequently in the summer of 2024 up until now. So in black is GameStop, blue is Mara, and I did it once for Tempest, which I did very well. It was when Pelosi bought it, so I rode the momentum. I was able to collect this amount of premium on the option for the Tempest and then close it for 500, so I netted 275, and that was great. And you can see I opened it 21st and I closed it 23rd. So within 2 days, I was able to make a nice little profit, right? That was like a rare exception. But also you could see with Mara in here, right? So I was selling puts, and in selling the puts, like I would be collecting premium. And then this is like the net amount received right after I closed it, right? Like here I collected a huge premium, but then I was exercised, like I was forced to buy the shares. And then I had to keep selling calls. You could see all these different calls: sell a call at Mara, sell a call at Mara, sell a call at Mara. Some of them, like I would close it, and then this is like the net profit. Some of them, like there's an X, I let it just expire worthless, and I would turn around and sell the next call. But eventually I was like, I want out of Mara. I don't want to trade options on this anymore, because if you look back at any Bitcoin miner, you're always better off. Same with gold miners. Whether it's a Bitcoin mining company or a gold mining company, you're always better off just buying the asset itself, whether it's gold or Bitcoin. It always outperforms. So I was just thinking I could trade it, and what I'm looking for in selling options, right, is something that's relatively volatile, having generally higher implied volatility, which Mara did, and GameStop generally does because just the nature of it. And with that, you know, you can collect more premium. And in selling options, the reason I like doing it is because I look at it as like time is on your side. Like as time decays, like you profit essentially. Whereas when you're buying an option, you're fighting against time, because if the stock moves sideways for a few days, your option value is going to go down for the most part, right? Whereas when you're selling it, you're like, okay, great. I don't mind if it's going down because I'm the seller of the option. So you can see with Mara, I collected a total of, I did the math, my net premium collected was $883. But after I sold the shares for a massive loss of $1,200, right, I was just working with one set of shares that I was using. And then I got exercised, and I opened it again, exercised again, a couple times, got exercised in GameStop. But for the most part, I like selling puts. But this strategy is called the wheel. So I'll kind of keep talking about it as time goes on and show you guys how it goes for me. But overall, my net on the Mara trade, I was down 316. So that didn't work, right? But overall, mostly from GameStop and that one time with Tempest, this is my net profit as of now. And I don't have 2025 interest included. And also, the reason I like selling puts is because you're basically posting cash collateral, and that cash is still earning interest in a money market account, and you're also collecting premium. So I really much rather sell puts. You can see as of late, I've really only had to sell puts. There was one time I had to sell a GME call, and then it got exercised, and I was like, great. Okay. So what happened was like a put got exercised back here, right? So this put, I got assigned the shares. So then I had to turn around. I sold a $25 call, expired worthless, but I collected $121. Then again, I sold another $25 call, collected $72. But then at that point, GameStop was over $25. So we got exercised. So I got my shares cashed out at $25 a share, turn around, go back to selling puts. So I really prefer to sell puts, but if I have to, I'll sell a call until I get back to just being in cash. And in doing that, I'm earning money market interest, and I continue to collect option premiums. So it's gone pretty well for me so far. Although there was a couple times in the beginning I was like, nah, I'll just sell the shares and go back to selling puts. So that I calculated it all in here, and this is technically my total premium collected. Then you subtract this loss is the total profit, interest earned. This is where I'm at right now, right? And this is on roughly, like, as I've got more comfortable at it and as I've collected more money, I've been able to sell more options. So right now, I have like 4 open ones, but like I'll be able to update this one. So as of late, I've been doing weeklies. Back here, I was mostly doing monthlies, and now I'm getting more comfortable where I'm doing it a little more frequent and watching it closely, doing more weeklies. And if I have to, I can always roll. If you're not familiar with what that is, it basically means like if this expired this week, right? Like this one just expired, or that was last week, but this one just expired worthless, right? So I'm gonna be able to put this, paid 0. So this is my net premium collected, what I just did. Boom. And then this is worthless, and then no. And then everything updates, right? So then, boom. That gets calculated in here now. So with that, now next week I can turn around and I can sell another put. But honestly, since it's pretty extended right now, I'm going to wait for a pullback before I sell the next options. And that's the thing too. I'm not going to rush to sell the next put. I'll wait for a little bit of a pullback. If it doesn't, great. I'm fine with the stock going up, right? And that's kind of been my approach. So just wanted to share that with you guys, but also remember, I am just a guy on the internet. Do not take any of this as financial advice. Read a lot about options before you do even before you even consider selling options. Like, become very, very familiar with them. I feel it took me a while to really get comfortable with this, and I'm still, trying to get better and better at it. I still have room for improvement, and I'm trying to just focus on doing the little things right, and ultimately just doing this as kind of like a form of side income opportunity for myself. And again, keeping it completely separate from my long-term investing. And it's worked out pretty good so far, fortunately. And I'm really just doing it with GameStop because I feel like I have my finger on the pulse of the company and just very in touch with it. So I try and sell, like, right now my game plan is to keep selling like a mix of monthlies and weeklies, like a week out, 2 weeks out, a couple of those, and then 1 or 2 for a month out. Always just keep some cash ready to go. So if GameStop randomly does have a dip, right? Let's say they issue a convertible note next week. They say, hey, we're raising more capital by doing a convertible note offering. If they do that, then the price is likely going to see a pretty large dip. And then when that happens, I'm going to go into the market and I'm going to sell a put because implied volatility will be higher. So I'll be able to collect a decent premium, and I believe in them to bounce back. So that's where I would kind of want to have cash on the side, right, for that opportunity. But again, I'm still, kind of getting comfortable with this. That's also why I haven't really shared it before today, because I'm still all figuring it out. And for the past several years, I've really just looked at myself as like a long-term investor. But now, I would say I dabble in trading, but people are always like, oh, like, even when GameStop was going up, my friend texted in the group chat, he's like, yo, Noah, what calls do you have? Or like, how are your calls doing? I'm like, I don't have calls. I only sell puts. So, and in the event where I've had to sell a call, like, yes, it's unfortunate when it gets exercised and then I have to technically sell the shares. But again, it's completely separate from my long-term investing. And yeah, it's worked out pretty good for me. I'm pretty fortunate, and it's been a good experience so far, I would say. It's not the cleanest sheet I got going on here, so I'll keep improving this little by little. And then when I do own shares, right, I have it calculated in, like how many shares I have, the current GameStop price, and the current value of shares. And that's in the event where I'm holding 100 shares and then selling a call on that. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now. I think I'm going to kind of wrap it up here because I'm about to go to dinner soon with my lovely girlfriend and another couple, so that should be nice. Shout out to you if you're listening. But this is the last thing I want to touch on. I don't know if you guys saw this new like Google thing. Sorry, the typing's going to be annoying, but I'll be like, a guy let's see, a guy visiting a mall underwater with lots of fish and sharks swimming around. The AI generations are actually getting crazy. Sorry, the typing's probably very annoying. We gotta figure out the arm for this, but like, look at this. This is while that's generating. Like, I was like, a guy walking out of a GameStop store happy with their purchase. See, this one's a little glitchy, but like this is crazy. Like, where are the other ones? Does it have the other ones I did? Let's see. Watch Flow TV. Interesting. See, like, yeah, look at this. I was trying to make like a poker one because I play poker with my buddy. So I was trying to make a meme. This guy called himself the CEO, our one friend. So like, look at this. Like, like, it's not perfect, but it's getting better and better. There's definitely more too. They're just not showing up for whatever reason. And it also gives you a percentage, which is nice. So you know what it's like. See, like, okay, this one's not that great, but like, isn't it crazy? Like, I didn't even give it that specific of a prompt, and like, some of the ones I've seen online. That's the whole thing too with this AI stuff. Like, you have to be very specific in giving it like it's a prompt. Like, it was kind of like my friend at work was telling me today how like coding, because I was talking about coding, like he's getting interested in that. He's doing a lot of research on it and taking like a course. And he's like, coding is like when you tell like a little kid tell someone who's never been on the planet Earth, like, make a peanut butter sandwich. It's like, okay, first grab the bread. They just grab it and it's like, okay, now put it down. They just put it down in the weirdest way. It's like, no, you have to put it like this. First, then you put the peanut butter, then you put the jelly. No, you have to be very specific. Like, take the knife, put it in the peanut butter, scoop some out, then put it on the first piece of bread, smear it, then take the jelly, put it on the other piece of bread, smear it, then put down the knife, pick up the bread, put it together. That's what coding and AI is like. You have to give it very specific, like, instructions in order for it to accurately provide you with what you want, right? But just, I always think about the fact that this stuff is, you know, relatively newer, right? In the grand scheme of things, like Google's still only, what, 25 years old or so? ChatGPT came out 2-3 years ago. Look how fast everything's moving, right? And becoming more and more available. And you could do a free trial right now on Google for this. So I think it's worth playing with, right? It's pretty fun. Let's see what we got here. See, like, this isn't the best, but I mean, like, for the fact they gave it very general instructions, right? Like, it's just crazy. It's just crazy. Let's see, do I have the other ones? Oh, I guess you could generate even more if you want. But I'm fascinated by it. AI scares me, but fascinates me at the same time. I would say it's like a mix of both. And people are like, oh, why do you use it? Like, it's scary. And I'm like, because everyone else is going to use it anyway. And you guys say please and thank you to the robots, so they remember. But yeah, in terms of GameStop, we'll see what happens, right? That's all what it comes down to. We just have to see how it all shakes out. See if, you know, anything comes to this meeting. How much Bitcoin did they buy? Did they truly become a Bitcoin treasury company? I don't think so. The Canadian operation was sold off. You know, they obviously updated the investment policy to reflect Bitcoin. SG&A's been going down. Margins have been getting better, right? I'd really like to see, I don't think we're going to necessarily see it in 2025, but it'd be awesome if we did. I really want to see gross margins consistently over 30% in the long run. I think we need that in order for operating margins to get back to positive. Besides the fourth quarter, we want operating margins to be this positive every quarter. And then net margins will continue to be strong, right? As long as they're earning interest income. And if operating margins improve, naturally net margin will improve as well because they don't have accumulation of interest, right? Or the interest accumulated on the side. But overall, I'm going to wrap it up. And thank you guys so much for being here. Obviously, revenue, you know, we do got to get that fixed up at some point, or not even fixed up, but they're just focused on profitability. I don't think it'll go down forever. And I apologize if there's been any like background sound. This mic is so sensitive. I got to get my setup better figured out. But again, I appreciate you guys. Stay tuned. More streams coming soon if you don't already. Follow me on X at